I thought that the American pen was in danger of not having enough contact with foreign pen centers. And since I had gone to a couple of international conferences before I became president, I realized what an important experience this was to have these contacts with these other pen centers. And so when I was president, I always did my very best to get to be friendly with the prominent writers from these other centers. I was very successful with one, I think, really great novelist, Heinrich Böll, the German novelist. Germany was just emerging from the horrors of the damage that Nazism had done to the reputation of all Germans. Böll had this huge sense of international responsibility. He was horrified by the censorship in Russia, for instance. He talked to me as somebody who would make a great international president. So when we met in Lyon for our international conference, we had to propose an new international president, and I proposed him. The reaction of the French was not pretty. They absolutely blew their stacks. Pen in those days was, again, I just keep emphasizing the Cold War, was a mini UN in the sense that a lot of the members, the delegations from other countries, particularly South America, gravitated to the Americans. I knew a lot of these people, and I was able to politic very, very assiduously for 24 hours with them to convince them that this would be a wonderful thing for international peace. That here we are saying, yes, Germany is back in the family of nations, and we believe this. We believe that they're trying to expiate the horrors and crimes of Nazism, and here's our testimony. So the next meeting, one of the French delegates stood up and he said, I have a proposal to make. There will be no secret ballot for this meeting. There will be voice voting. Everyone will have to testify who they vote for. And then he glared around the room saying, does anybody here have the nerve to vote in public for a German? And I immediately protested, and I said, that is a ridiculous idea. We've always voted by secret ballot. Why shouldn't we? The Frenchman said, a secret ballot is undemocratic. And so that was voted down with a huge burst of laughter. And so we voted, and Böll became president. And what he did as international president is something that, as far as I know, no other international president has ever done anything approaching it. He decided to go to Russia personally and travel through Russia and talk not just to the top people in Moscow, but to talk to mayors of cities and politicians in small cities. And he finally went to Moscow and talked to some top people there, and he said, I've talked to all your people. This is why he was doing this. I've talked to people all over Russia, and they don't like this any more than I do. They don't think that you need to silence writers. You're a great country. Why don't you just give writers the freedom? He got absolutely nowhere. At the end of this whole thing, he wrote me a wonderful letter. He was so upset. He wanted to let me know. He felt so that we had this bond, because I'd helped him become international president and so forth. He wanted to let me know what he tried to do, and what he was so heartbroken and so forth. And this letter, it was from a prose point of view, Anna Marie would have told him to burn it rather than let it out of the house, but he just mailed it, and it was so touching. There was indeed a payoff. A year or so later, the Russians kicked Solzhenitsyn out of the country. He'd been in Siberia, and then he got back, and he was misbehaving all over again. So they kicked him out of the country, and they gave him Böll's address.